I'm Tina Majorino, and you're listening to You Might Know Her From with Damien and Anne.
Ooh, hootenanny. Welcome back, folks, to season 4 of You Might Know Her From. Hello, Damien.
Hello, it is me, Damien. Hello, Anne.
Hi, it's me, Anne. We're here. We're back with season 4, babes. We're here.
We're still alive and kicking, and we are so happy to be here with you. If you're new to the show, welcome. This is our little podcast where we shoot the shit. We're best friends for over 10 years, and we talk about pop culture goings on and what we are into, what we are not into, and we sandwich all of our typical BS with a wonderful interview with a great actor, an underrated actor that we are just over the moon for.
It feels good to be back. Things are getting back in full swing a little bit here. I'm back in the office a few days a week. That's wild. It was like 88 degrees yesterday. It's hot as fuck still. You sent me this text yesterday and you were like, this is my new favorite show. And I was like, oh my God, it's a podcast about The View, like 25 years of The View. They're doing a retrospective. And the first episode was Joy Behar and Meredith Vieira talking about the show. And I was like, I can't wait to listen to this. And I queued it up for my trip home as if it was like primetime television. You know, I was like, I'm going to save this to listen to on my like 50-minute subway ride home. And it did not disappoint. They were so pleasurable to listen to. And it harkened back to like watching the first 5 years of The View like almost every day. And
it's just like, it's so clear that, well, I don't know how close of friends that they are, but they are friends. And the way it opens is just them being like, it's like Joy being like, hey, bitch. And Meredith like mocking her and being like, hey, bitch. And then Joy's like, I don't know what we're supposed to do. And it's like, it's so clear that because I'm sure that other episodes might not be as good when it's like Candace Cameron Bure and like,
oh, please.
But yeah. I think that clearly, like, Meredith doesn't need to be doing this podcast. It's probably a real favor that she's doing it for them, and Joy doesn't care. So it just was so pleasurable to me to get. And also, I thought that it was pretty, like, you know, obviously, like, they would say, like, we can't say that on the air. But I felt like mostly it was pretty juicy.
Joy was like, remember when Barbara fired me? And then, like, remember when Bill fired me? Like, Joy was fired twice, basically.
She was like, remember when I slipped and said in the press that Rosie was joining the show and then they fired me? And I was like, Barbara, no, Meredith did it. And Meredith was like, you blamed me? And she was like, well, no, I did. But I was...
I forgot, like, just how good The View is to me. I honestly couldn't care about it now. Also, Joy was like, I hate what it is now. It was, I wish it would be what it used to be. And I was like, me too. Like, I watched through the Rosie years.
Same.
And I watched the early Whoopi years.
Same.
But then it was like, I can't deal with it now. The constant rotation of guests. I don't know who these people are. I don't care. And Joy was like, it's too political now. Like, used to, we would just like talk about whatever happened in our day and like how you couldn't sleep and like, does my husband snore? And I was like, oh boy, those are like the hacky days, but I loved them so much.
And even, I guess, when Rosie was on is maybe where it started to pivot, and that's where when Elizabeth Hasselbeck was on, and then she was also on with Whoopi. So I guess, like, Elizabeth Hasselbeck and Rosie's presence are part of what made it, like, a polarizing show, a show where it was, like, more politically. But I still enjoyed it in those days. Same. At a certain point, though, once I think, and I really don't want to give her any credit, but I feel like once Elizabeth left, the show actually became hard for me because they were just trying to capture the magic, quote unquote, of having a person whose like ideals were so entirely different from the rest of the people at the table. But like in those days, like Sherri Shepherd and Elizabeth were like best friends and like in each other's weddings. So like whatever, like I don't know what Sherri Shepherd's politics are. I probably don't want to know, but I felt like they weren't trying to like be like, okay, we have to hire Meghan McCain so we can watch the women fight. It was like, you know, they were just like, there was a woman at the table who was from Survivor, who was married to an NFL player. So you know, she was, again, wasn't like a political pundit. She was like a person who was chasing fame, who was put on the show and had these different ideals, and that has made it interesting. And then it was like, it's not interesting anymore. Like, I don't want to watch them just like argue about politics for 2B women arguing.
No, it's terrible. The other reveal of this podcast, which again, highly recommend, is that I didn't know that Sherri Shepherd's first day on The View was the day that she said that the earth was flat. I thought, this is so cool. Oh God. I would love to have Sherri Shepherd on this show and talk to her.
She's so good in Precious.
She's really a great actor. She's great on 30 Rock. We're angling for Sherri Shepherd. I'd love to talk to her about The View and her acting career. But look, get into it. If you're View fans, please come at us. The question remains, where is Barbara Walters?
Where is Barbara Walters?
Is Barbara okay?
She hasn't been...
She Greta Garbo'd herself. You know, she was like, it's time for me to go away. I've been on for too long. Well, you know what? I hope Barbara's okay wherever she is.
You know what I know is okay? This week's interview. Woo! You like that transition? I am the
loved
moderator,
it. I missed
baby.
it. I was just about to say, it's like you're not wearing any shoes and you've got like a long caftan on. You are whooping all over the place.
She's the worst in transitions. I love her so much. This week's interview is just like, woo. I don't think I knew how delighted I was going to be, but let me tell you, this week's guest, Tina Majorino, her energy and this interview, like, I felt like I was on the ceiling. I was so pleased.
Yeah.
It was like a conversation, and I feel like that's harder and harder sometimes because of the Zoom element of interviewing people who are not local. And I just felt like we really captured something special.
Completely. And I, dove back into her career as a young star and then got to watch some of her more current work. And it really is just nice to see the arc of a young actor. I was so impressed with the work that she's doing in every single credit. So please, go back and watch some of those early films, but also watch some of her new stuff, because watching her as an adult in the world, ooh, she's so good. But yes, like Damien was saying, it really was an interview where I felt like we got to some really real stuff, and she seemed like our kind of person, and let's be honest, not every person we interview is 1,000% our person, but guess what? Tina was. And just so you know, we decided to keep this full interview almost at its entire length because we felt it was so good. So we are giving you this jam-packed mega episode for the season 4 premiere. Usually they're closer to an hour, but this one is going to run over. So let us know what you think, because we really tried to keep in as much meat as possible. Sometimes we try to trim it down for you, but we just thought there were so many nuggets and that we had a really good flow, so we decided to keep it all in.
You might know her from Napoleon Dynamite,
Waterworld,
Big Love,
When a Man Loves a Woman,
Andre,
Corrina,
Veronica Mars,
True Blood,
Grey's Anatomy,
Alice in Wonderland,
and Into the Dark Delivered. We are just ecstatic, euphoric to be here with actor Tina Majorino. Thank you, Tina, for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tina, you, I think, have a prolific acting career as both a young person and as an adult. And we're going to get to all of it as we do here. But first, we need to talk to you about your podcast, which we are both very into right now. It's called No Pressure, and it's you and your brother Kevin, and you talk about sort of what's going on with y'all, and then you invite a guest on to sort of talk shit with them.
Yeah.
For our listeners, we just dove into your most recent episode as of this recording, which was with Haley Duff. And the intro monologue, you're talking about falling down a wormhole, researching giants, and also cryogenically frozen people. And Anne and I were texting. We both were like, okay, this is our wavelength. So can you talk to us about what the impetus was to start a podcast, first of all? And also, maybe more importantly, do you think the animated movie was titled Frozen so that when people Googled Walt Disney Frozen, you'd really have to dig into the dark web to find those rumors because of SEO?
Okay. This is going to be the catalyst for a new wormhole for this evening.
I just think it's not a coincidence.
We talked about cryogenically frozen people. We're obsessed with this. So when we knew you were on the same wavelength, we're like, holy shit.
I love that your head went there, and I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and co-sign that.
Thank you. Great.
So the podcast was an idea that I had for several years, but before I didn't have the time, or I was too scared, or, a plethora of other reasons as to why it never came to fruition. And then when the pandy happened, my brother and I were talking about so many different things. My brother and I have great conversations privately. And then he admitted to me well, I've always wanted to do a podcast too. We should do one together. And I was like, this is a fantastic idea because I don't want to do it by myself. So It's been great. I've really been enjoying it, and it just really warms my heart that you guys like it.
Highly recommend.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it is, like you said, it's like we can sort of get to know you as a person, and also because Damien and I sort of do the same thing, which is just shooting the shit, because I feel like our dynamic is sort of what defines both our friendship and, like, individually. His friendship is such a big part of me. So I don't know. It was really nice to hear you and your brother. Do you guys think you're going to keep doing it now that the world is sort of opening back up?
Yeah.
Okay.
We enjoy it so much. It's like definitely was the highlight of our weeks during the lockdown and everything, but it still is now, that even when things are beginning to open back up. But we both enjoy it so much, like we want to keep doing it. We want to do it like you guys do it, season by season.
It's nice to take a break and also, like, be able to bank episodes, so then if you have a busy week, you're not, like, feeling like then it's not fun, you know, that you feel like you are able to do it and it's doable.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I don't think that people realize that, because I was one of them where I'm just like, oh, people are talking into a microphone, it's no big deal. So much respect for you guys. You have like 96 episodes? It's so much work. It's a ton of work.
It is a lot of work. Yeah. But I think that to speak to, like, the dynamic and, like, the rapport you have with your brother, which is, you know, very easy. But, like, the Haley Duff episode, I was like, oh, we need to get Haley Duff now. Like, now I'm a fan of hers. And the conversation was so easy. And at the end, she's on a phone. And I was like, she sounds great. One, crystal clear. So kudos to your brother.
Yeah.
And also, she was like, I forgot we're recording a podcast. And I was like, I forgot. Like, it was just really, it had a nice flow. Super highly recommend. Also, Haley Duff is great. You're great. Your brother is great. I was very into it.
You have to get Haley. She's awesome. She's such an amazing person, and I just have so much respect for her career, because she has like 7 of them, and she does it simultaneously. So she's amazing.
So, Tina, our listeners, know, of course, that you cut your teeth as a young actor in films like Andre, Waterworld, When a Man Loves a Woman, Alice in Wonderland, and Corrina. But in our research, delving beyond that, we were really taken with this sort of very deliberate departure from Hollywood at the age of 14 to focus on what you were saying is being a kid, and how you were reemerged this sort of very clearly still talented, somehow like well-adjusted young adult in Napoleon Dynamite in 2004. Can you talk about that decision to take a break and what it was about that particular project that got you out of retirement?
At that time, I think I had my last movie before my sabbatical was Alice in Wonderland, and what a magical experience that was. But I was really tired. I had been very lucky to have been consistently working since I did a show called Camp Wilder. That was my first TV thing. So I started in commercials, and then I did that, and then I moved on to film. But I was 6 when I started really, really working professionally. And then, by the time I wrapped Alice in Wonderland, I was exhausted. My family is not in the industry. And when I said that I wanted to be an actress when I was a baby, it was like, okay. There was no investment in that on their part. Like, my mom is not one of those Hollywood stage moms. It was like, as long as you're enjoying it, that's fine. So I didn't have any pressure from my family to do it. The only thing that my mom ever said to me is like, you do it until it's not fun anymore. And I feel like I had gotten to a point where for all of that time, I didn't feel like I was missing anything else. And then when I was around 13 or 14, it did start to feel like I don't really know who I am outside of this. All of my experiences are on these extraordinary sets with, amazing people, and I'm not complaining, but I had an awareness that I didn't have a strong sense of who I was becoming as a human being. And I've always believed that in order to be a good actor, you've got to be able to pull from something. And I grew up in the era where I was surrounded by these other amazing young actors. And at that time, it was like very clear in person, maybe not in the press yet, that they were struggling. And I didn't want that to be my path. luckily for me, I was very blessed to have the mother that I do that wasn't pushing me places that I didn't want to go, and listened to me when I said, I really feel like I need this and I need to get to know myself better, and I don't want my first kiss to be on screen, and I don't want to go to prom on screen, and I don't want to have all of my friends be just all of these grown-ups. Like I need to have a real life and like understand what it is that I want to do and who I want to be. And I went to school and I really let it go, even though it was such a controversial thing. And I didn't see it this way because I think I was very sheltered from all of it. I had no idea that shit was popping off for me. I had no idea. I was just doing what I loved, and then I was tired. So when I said, I'm going to step away for a while, it was like, this is fucking crazy. You should not do this. You will never be able to come back. Like, you're going to rue the day that you made this decision. There wasn't a lot of support of my humanity, or like, which I get, because it's still a business, you know, and I just said, all right, fuck it. You know, whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to change my mind. You know, I also wanted to be sure that this is something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It's a lot. It's a lot. Like, yes, it's incredible that you get to live all over the world. Yes, it's incredible that you get to meet all of these incredible artists, and the list goes on and on of the plus sides of it. But, you know, there's also other things that are just as important, if not more important, that, you know, you're moving away from your family all the time. You're moving away from your friends, and it's a commitment. So went to school. I graduated high school really early and went to college for a bit. And I actually started out dancing anyway. Like, that's how my mom thought that she was going to get me to not want to be an actress. She put me in a singing and dancing and performing thing when I was 2.5. And she's like, there's a recital. There's going to be 350 people. She's going to fucking hate it. And we're going to goodnight this. And then after that performance, which was a one-time performance, I was like, can I do it again tomorrow? And she was like, okay. So, you know, I started out dancing, and I went back to that. And I was studying dance. I thought that I was going to be a professional dancer. Maybe I started teaching and doing all of that kind of stuff. And then when Napoleon came around, I was flirting with the idea. I'm like, I think I'm ready to come back because I love dance, and I love that I've like carved this other path, but it still doesn't make me feel the way that acting does, because I love it so much. Like, that is my home. Like, that's where I feel most myself. I got a new agent because I was like, let's just feel this out. And it was the first script that she sent me. And she was new to me, and, you know, we didn't have the level of comfort and rapport that we do now. And she sent it to me because she was sending me everything just to sort of see what my vibe was. That script is still to this day one of the best scripts that has ever come across my desk in my career. It was utter perfection. And I mean that. Like, people ask all the time, oh, there's got to be so much improv in that movie, whatever. None. Like, very, very minimal. All of that was on the page. And I was like, I've got to audition for this. This is incredible. It's so funny. And she was like, are you on PCP? Like, I don't get it. This is bizarre, but like, if you want to do this, then fine. And so I went and had a great time with Jared auditioning, and I came out of it. My mom was still driving me at that time, and my mom was like, how did it go? Did you have fun? And I was like, yeah, I definitely didn't get the job, but that was a blast. And then I did get it. That whole experience was joy from beginning to end, and it was just icing on the cake that, like, out of nowhere it blew up. And then, of course, when it did blow up, my agent was like, don't ever listen to me again.
Okay, Tina, you recurred on a few beloved TV series in the mid-aughts, things like Big Love, True Blood, Grey's Anatomy. Rob Thomas even wrote the role of resident hacker Mac in Veronica Mars For You. All of these shows have rabid fan bases. Which of them most felt like home?
Like on a personal level, Big Love probably felt the most homey to me. Mm-hmm. I felt very supported in that show, and working with Bill and Chloe and Jennifer and Jean and Amanda and everybody and all the writers, like we had such incredible writers. I don't know, that one, the set itself probably felt the most homey to me. Character-wise, the closest one to me, like as a person, was probably Molly in True Blood, which was a complete accident on my part because I went in, a director that I had worked with on Big Love, who I adored, was directing this episode of True Blood, and I was like, I hadn't really been super into True Blood before, but I was like, I love vampire shit. It looks so fun. I'm just going to go in and audition for him because I want to see him again. And the woman who wrote the episode that I was auditioning for was in the room. And the description of Molly was like a suicide girl. You know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, really bodacious and like gorge and corsets and all this stuff. And I did not own a single piece. It was like a last minute thing. And I was like, fuck, I just have to like go as myself and hope that my work does something because I could not meet the standards. Like I have no boobs. I have no corsets. I have no tattoos. God bless. And the woman who wrote the episode, like we just really clicked. And she was like, I love your vibe. She like loved my outfit. And she was like, can I just like write this character for you to do like 8 episodes and then we'll kill you? And I was like, I'm sorry, have I just won the lottery? What's happening? Yeah. Because I had never died on something before either. And I was like obsessed with that since I was a child. I would practice like what I would do in a death scene. God, that was so fun. Like I got to wear my own clothes. I got to wear some of my own clothes on True Blood. I had so much fun with the cast, and then I got to fucking die in the best way possible. So
your like goopy death was so good.
So good. And I love fake blood, and I love all of that shit. So it was chef's kiss.
Yeah.
So good.
So it was great to sort of revisit your work in Big Love, but I have to be honest and say, like, I watched the first season in real time and I loved it, but I had to stop watching it. You play Heather, who's Amanda Seyfried's best friend, a devout Mormon, but I had to stop watching not because of anything regarding the show, but because like my own sort of relationship to organized religion and the sort of family history of that and the sort of like gendered and sexual violence that can come along with it. It just felt a little bit like too much of a raw nerve. And I thought, the show is so good, but I think I can't watch it right now.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that, and I thought, like, how do you as an actor deal with material? Not that Big Love was that for you, but like when something touches a nerve that feels potentially dangerous or too close to home for you, like how do you deal with material like that?
You guys have the best questions. To be honest, I really have to weigh it out because picking material is tricky. It's like you want it to strike a nerve with you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be good. It doesn't necessarily have to be that elated feeling or positive. I try to pick things that feel important to me. I like the idea that the material can scare me in some way. Because otherwise it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like flippant about it, but it's after you've been doing this for a long time, it's like there are certain roles that you can do in your sleep. And like, I'm not interested in that. I want to be challenged, and I want to do things that even if they make me personally uncomfortable, if it would help someone else in the world who will watch it, who is in the position that character is in, that doesn't get enough attention, or it's not talked about often, and it makes me scared that I'm going to do it wrong or represent it wrong or whatever. Like, it's more important in my mind to handle the material that way, where it's like, my feelings don't matter. Is this important to talk about? Is this important to portray or not? I do a ton of research and a ton of prep work, and then you just have to say fuck it and let it all go and sort of surrender to the process. Because it's like, yeah, you do your part, and then there's 3 other parts after that you have no participation and no control in. So I'm only in control of how I handled the material, how I performed the material, and then they can do whatever they want with it. It can be intimidating, but I like that. There's only been probably 3 films that I have just blatantly turned down because it required me to go to a very dark place that I was not personally able to handle at the time. When I was personally super depressed and I was struggling in my personal life, and I'm like, there's no possible way that I will come out of this okay if I go do this movie right now. Like, I'm just doubling down on darkness, and I know I can't do that. I didn't want to be miserable to work with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
You talked about dying on True Blood. They also unceremoniously killed you on Grey's Anatomy. You got electrocuted in a puddle and then died on the operating table.
Yeah.
We had Brooke Smith on this show, and she talked about, like, despite being a series regular, they just, like, the day before her last episode, she was like, okay, this is your last one. Did Grey's give you a heads up that they were going to kill you off?
No.
It's their MO, apparently. That's what they do.
Yeah. I think that they're very, I mean, my death was because I couldn't sign on to do another season. I was committed to another show, and I couldn't do both. That was the thing about Big Love that was incredible, is I shot Big Love and Veronica Mars at the same time. And that never happens. I was a series regular on both of them. That never happens. So while I lucked out in that scenario, in this one, it just was not going to work.
Well, they were not willing.
Correct. We said it, you don't have to.
And then they killed you in a puddle so that there was no opportunity for you to come back.
I mean, I was honored by it because I loved it, because my mom and my show was Grey's Anatomy. And like, when I auditioned for Grey's Anatomy, I didn't know who I was going to play. They're very mysterious and like lock up their storylines and stuff, which I understand because they have like a rabid fan base completely. So when I auditioned, I had no fucking clue that I was going to be an intern. I didn't know what my name was. I didn't know that I was playing a doctor. I didn't know that my first day was going to be a sex scene with Justin Chambers.
Oh.
Which was delightful. It was such a wild ride. And like, those people work so much. I mean, the hours on that show were fucking intense. It was crazy. You know, I used to love to watch that show with my mom. It was our weekly like get together show. And so when I got to be on it, it was phenomenal. And then when I got to die off of it, it was iconic.
Yeah.
Shonda killed me, dude. I'm
that's cool.
Very proud of that. And my character got to be the catalyst for like a beautiful McDreamy emotional moment in the OR.
That's right.
Please.
Right. Yeah.
Loved it.
And there's always hope for ghosts, you know, like they always bring ghosts back.
They come back, that's
for
true.
A ghost arc sometime.
Yeah. But in the meantime, that death fucked me up. For real. Like, True Blood, you're exploding. Give me a break. It's not grounded in reality. It's just fun times all over the place.
You're telling me you're scared of puddles now.
No. No, but like, when they pull a sheet over your head and you like see yourself all white and
Okay.
I'm also claustrophobic, so when they bring me into the hospital and I'm strapped to the gurney, like that was a moment. It was intense. And crew members walked out when they shot the death scene because it was very, I had worked with some of the crew members since I was a kid. It was like our 4th time working together. It was just too, and my brother was there and he was like, fuck this, I'm out. Like, I can't watch it. It was just very sad. And like, I love the Grey's Anatomy crew so much that my last day was terrible. It was very sad because I loved their crew members so much.
Tina, we're going to go back to 1994. It was a hot year for you. You said you didn't know that like shit was popping off, but let's be honest, you had that string of high profile hits. When a Man Loves a Woman, Corrina, and Andre were all in the same year. It's sort of insane.
Yeah.
They all came out in the same year, whether or not you filmed them.
Corrina, and Andre came out on the same day.
Oh my God.
Isn't that weird?
It's insane.
Yeah.
Also not good planning on their part.
I mean...
But, you know, revisiting all of these movies that we both grew up with, you were doing so much emotional heavy lifting with these huge superstars, Meg Ryan, Andy Garcia, Ray Liotta, Whoopi Goldberg. And what still is true is that you came across really connected, really grounded, a very emotionally present young actor that was not doing too much, which I think is how you shot to stardom. But how, as like a young person, did you prepare for these intense scenes where, you know, like your mother, Meg Ryan, is drunk and slapping you across the face when you're 8 years old? Like, how do you prepare for that as a kid, and how do you come back from that?
Okay, so this might be like a really underwhelming sort of answer, but like, if I'm honest, the way that I know that this is what I am meant to do is because I can't explain how I do that, or how I knew, specifically how I knew how to do that as a child. I've always been intensely sensitive. Like, When a Man Loves a Woman was my first movie. And my mother had a very traumatic childhood. And I did that movie for her because she was me in that movie. And I don't know how I knew that at the time, but like, whenever I would hear things about that, I could feel what she was feeling. And if someone to this day describes to me how a situation feels or what their experience was, like, I can feel that and I can connect with what that must be like, and I just do the best that I can. My mom implemented on When a Man Loves a Woman because that was emotionally so taxing. We would be shooting some of those scenes, like the slap scene was maybe 2 days. It was, I mean, that's the thing that's so different about like film and television. Like, television, you do fucking like 22 pages a day. And you're just like, okay, moving on. Let's, 3 cameras, let's whatever. But on films, specifically when I was a child, like, we just took our time, which is great, except if you have to be in those dark places for days and days and days at a time, where you do get to go home and then you got to pick it back up again. But my mom implemented this thing where when the scene was done, those very intensely emotional scenes for me, she would take me off set. She would bring my pillow from home. She would put the pillow like on her chest, and then she would hold me. She would take me to a corner of the stages or outside the stages privately, and she would let me wail into that pillow and just be like, let it all go, all of it. Just cry it out until you can't do it anymore. Let it all go. And did that every time, so that I knew that it wasn't something that I had to carry, because I do. I mean, still as an adult, it's one of the biggest challenges of my life is like, I can't just like let things go and not feel anything. Like, I just feel a lot of stuff all the time. So she very intuitively saw that that was going to be something that I would have to do. And she did it every time, which was very helpful. But then, when you wrap the movie, wrapping movies is very hard because it takes me a minute to go back to being myself. And I'm not a method actor at all. I don't want to give that vibe because I'm not. But it's still like you're still getting into a habit of being someone else and responding like someone else and feeling like someone else. So, yeah, I don't know. And I was always so drawn to material like that as a child too, like the darker stuff. And I don't know if that's just because like I felt like it was important. I had friends that were going through things like that. It was challenging. I don't know. It just felt important to me. I don't know. Is that a bad answer?
It's a wonder. I'm so moved. Like, I'm sitting here, I feel very moved by your mother and like how she handled your career. It's like crazy to think about, having just watched you sob, in this movie and get hit, and thinking about your mom offset. What a great mom.
She's the best person on the planet, and I am so lucky that she's my mom. And it's really funny, like, now that I'm a fully grown person, and I've been on sets now by myself for like 16 years, which sucks because she makes everything better. But I really have such an appreciation for like what all of that was like for her, and how she kept me just being myself and being a kid and not thinking about all of that. That's why I had no idea that like I was famous. I had no idea. And I would be scared in public because people would know who I was, and I just felt like, oh, do I have bugs on me or something? Like what's happening? And it was always very gracefully handled by her. But like, can you imagine, just my mom was 35 when she had me. So she already knew all these actors. I didn't, because I wasn't watching those movies. So it's like, can you imagine just like living your life, and then like Andy Garcia is singing you happy birthday, and you're watching somebody else play your daughter's mother, and like dealing with the ridiculous bullshit that happens in Hollywood. And like, she's just like an incredible person. Yeah. I like, truly.
Yeah. Love her. Love that.
Love mom.
Yeah. Mom sounds incredible. Yeah. It's interesting hearing you talk about your approach as a kid. This isn't true of all child actors, but you're still a really gifted actor. Did you have to develop a new technique as an adult, or was it just like riding a bike and it's like the same tools that you were using then?
Just had to knock the dust off.
Yeah. It's the same approach, though. You weren't like, okay, I have to like work in a different way now because I have an awareness.
Here's the thing. Technically speaking, like when I was a child, I didn't have to push too hard for the emotional aspect, right? So I would do research on the character and do character development and use my like crazy wild imaginarium to create the character, but like emotionally I could always access that. The thing that was the hardest for me as a child was when I was learning about the technical side of it, like hitting your mark without looking at it, finding your light, knowing what finding your light means, understanding how to be aware of the camera without looking at it, how to work with your camera crew and create a very strong relationship with them, because like to me they're your best friends on set. Like what it means to navigate the relationships that you have on set, that you need to have on set, that took up most of my brain space, because that's hard. It is not second nature at all. There are like 75 things going on in your mind before you get to even say whatever the fuck you're supposed to say. So the thing that I've noticed is like now it becomes easier in that way. I don't even think about that ever. Like now when I'm working, it's just, you're just like, oh, that's where my light is. And, like it's just second nature. Emotionally, it's sort of the same techniques, but I'm trying to go back to being a kid. In every aspect of my life, but specifically since we're talking about this, is like the kind of trust that I had in my feelings when I was a child. I have built up so many walls around that because of being experienced and just, having people tear you down, having directors or, just other human beings who might be approaching you from a place of insecurity and inadequacy, saying things to you that are like horrific, and just going back to, this is what I love the most, and I can trust that that's always there. So it's the same approach. It's just me trying to get back to not being so scared about it.
So, I mean, one of your great early performances is obviously Corrina opposite Whoopi Goldberg and Ray Liotta. And you and Whoopi are so good together and have just like a very special dynamic that really pops. Was that something that she tried to cultivate with you off screen?
100%.
So that on screen you had that dynamic?
She is one of the best women ever. Genuinely.
I'm so glad. You know, I'm always so worried, but she's the best. She's the best.
Let me just give you a peek into who this woman is. So not only was she knew it was only my second movie, she really trusted me as an actor, which is, she never talked down to me. She treated me as an equal, and she taught me so much about not only being an actor and being a professional, and like, I was able to observe her whole process and everything like that. She taught me so much about being a woman in the business. When I was still too young to fully have those things click, but it was still important information for me to hear. It was like the production did something that was uncool to her, and she left. And before she left, I was going to be shooting with her, and before she left, she said, it is so important that you teach people how you will and will not be treated. Don't ever let people disrespect you. It's important. You have a say. Little things like that. She was incredible to my mom. She's incredible to her family. She was incredible to the crew. She's the real deal, and she is so fucking talented. It's bananas. But then we worked together again. She played the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. And at the time, she was still super afraid of flying in airplanes. So I flew from England to New York to work with her, and I hadn't seen her, and I was really scared that she wasn't going to remember me. And I walked in, and her hairstylist, who she had worked with for 15, 20 years or something, both came over. Gave me a hug. It's so good to see you. It's, she used to fax me from her tour bus after we wrapped Corrina, just checking in, and we would draw things to each other. And then I quit, and then I came back, and I was going to go do a show, and it was the first time that I was ever moving to another state without anybody. I was going by myself. And Whoopi, out of nowhere, emails me and said, I'm so proud of you. Here are some of my friends that are in the city that you're moving to. And I've already talked to them. And if you need anything, because I know that your mama isn't with you, you need anything, you call these people. They will have you for dinner. They will show you around the city. Does it get any better? She's a genuinely amazing woman. Yeah.
I love that.
She's the best, dude. The best.
Yeah.
Okay, you star in the Hulu horror film anthology series Into the Dark. Your film Delivered has you starring as sort of like a modern day Annie Wilkes. You invite a pregnant woman and her husband to your secluded home, then you kill him and you hold her hostage. We were so into seeing you have a pregnant belly, you stab people with syringes, hitting them with shovels. Generally, you're just being terrifying. Was it fun to get to play this sort of unhinged character? And how hard was it to, spoiler alert, take a stake through the neck? I'm going to tell you I watched it first, and I told Anne, I said, wait till that end scene. Just watch and think about how hard that was to do.
It was so good. It went on for so long.
The camera, incredible. I was like, wow, just cut away, and you sold it. You sold it. The stake was in your neck, and you were like, I'm dying still. I was so into it.
I'm still going. First of all, best time of my life. I have dreamt about playing a baddie my entire career. And I've just been I want to be the bad guy. I want to go to the dark side. And this movie was so much fun. And I feel like I might have been a little too excited for people's tastes. Because I told you that I'm into the fake blood, and I love, when they put on the special effects makeup where you're beat up or you're bleeding. I talked Shonda into letting me have blood in my ear just because I wanted blood in my ear. Like, devastating. So it's, like I live for the ultimate game of pretend. But it was like, okay, Tina, today, you're going to be dragging this body over here. Was that your intern?
Yes.
Yeah, she just woke up. She's like, hey, was this still happening?
So sweet.
She went back to sleep.
Yeah, where I would just be like, yes, I'm dragging them. Let's go. Like, let's do this. And, I was just so excited to be on set every day and just being a crazy person. And I think the most challenging thing for me was, again, trying to not overdo it. Is like, crazy people don't know that they don't know, and they don't think, and they don't acknowledge that they're crazy. That's what makes them scary. And they're also coming from a place where they genuinely believe that they have nothing to lose. That's why they're so dangerous. And the other aspect of like being a bad guy, and I learned this from working with Dennis Hopper, because he scared the shit out of me when he played the Deacon. Okay, I'm going to like sidebar on him for a second, because he's somebody, I am so lucky for that time period. I was surrounded by the best actors who had the best attitudes about what they do. And do you remember when he had like the eye patch?
The eye, of course.
So he didn't he had like the fake eye, and like obviously all of that was prosthetics or whatever. Yeah. We were shooting, it was a really long day, and they were like, Dennis, it's fine, like you can go home. And so he went back to base camp, and they were still doing my coverage. It was the prison scene where I'm in the, I'm shackled.
He's holding you hostage, essentially. Yeah.
And so they already shot his coverage, and then they sent him home. And I was like, okay, like that sucks, but whatever. And he was in base camp, and he was getting his prosthetics removed. And he said, where's, why is everybody still working? I thought we wrapped. And they said, no, they wrapped you. And he said, are you telling me that Tina is still up there doing the scene by herself? And they said, yeah. And he said, radio them right now, and you tell them to cut, and he's going to put the shit back on my face, and we're going to go back up there and do it again. You never wrap me when an actor is still in the middle of the scene. Right?
Oh, I love it. I love Dennis Hopper. I'm so glad to hear it.
And he was the sweetest man. I mean, truly, because he knew that he scared me a lot. And he was a little bit method. So like at lunchtime, he would come over and visit and be normal.
Okay.
But he was incredible. And he told me, like, you never do that. If you're in a scene with an actor, you never leave them hanging. Right? Fucking great. He's amazing. Oh, and the other thing that he did is, like, whenever he had to touch me, because he was very physically aggressive with me, he would ask permission. He would check pressure, like if he was grabbing me or whatever, he would say, is this too tight or not too tight? Or, he was very communicative. So when I went to be the baddie in Delivered, 100% with Natalie, who plays the pregnant lady that I kidnapped, from day one, I was like, listen, I have to do terrible things to you. We're going to talk this out every step of the way. If you're ever uncomfortable, you have to tell me. If you ever need me to push you further, I'm here. Like, we established that sort of communication that Dennis had with me. Because it was important for me to know that she didn't believe that I was going to be like a crazy method actor, just like, my name's Jenny! And like, just being a fucking lunatic who's endangering her, But it was the best time. And getting staked, what's hilarious about that, we shot that in an hour. We were running out of time. It was my last day.
You were great.
Thank you. That was so fun.
The movie has like a lot of scares, and I was watching it late at night, and I said, I'm going to finish this in the daylight. I just needed to wait until morning, so highly recommend. It's streaming on Hulu.
Thank you. Love that.
Okay, I'm so glad, Tina, that you brought up Dennis Hopper because we just have to dive in. Truthfully, I had never seen Waterworld and I just needed a reason to sit down and watch it, so thank you for that. It changed my life. So for any of you who don't know, let me just give a background. It's a post-apocalyptic aquatic adventure starring Kevin Costner. Your character is Enola, a child who has a map tattooed on her back that is supposed to be directions to the fated dry land that no one knows if it exists or not. Enola and her guardian, Jean Triplehorn, we love her, escape with Kevin Costner, who is mostly a man but also has gills. This movie is more of a trip than I could have possibly imagined. It's like Michael Jeter and his hot air balloon, Dennis Hopper and his aforementioned eye. Like, what was the audition process? We now know Dennis Hopper was a gem, but like, did you know it was a big deal when you got it? What an intense, insane experience. We want to know whatever you're willing to share.
Okay, so that script was completely different when I auditioned for it. I was supposed to. I don't mean it like that. I don't mean it like that. I'm like, it was a rom-com. No, it was still like a humongous action movie. But my character was not originally in the entire thing. Kevin and I had a really good rapport and like a really good chemistry. I mean, that movie was a wild experience because it was supposed to be like a 3-month shoot in Hawaii and we were there for almost a year, and then we shot for
oh my god.
Yeah, and then we shot for 3 months in LA too. It was the ongoing joke on set where it's beginning to look a lot like because we were just there forever. And they'll never make a movie like that again. Obviously, it was all real. I mean, there's so few visual effects in that movie. Isn't it crazy?
That's what I was saying. I was like,
effects.
I was like, they're literally in the middle of the ocean. This is like, This is the most expensive looking movie I've ever seen. There's no magic to it. It really just looks like what is happening is happening. And I was like, this is a fucking great movie. When I posted that I was watching it like a week or two ago, when I tell you people came out of the woodwork and were like, it's my top 10 movie. I just watched it 2 weeks ago. This movie is incredible. And I was like, okay, this is not the flop reputation that people have been talking about for the lot. People now are like, okay, this movie is great. I really love it for all of its insanity.
It was never a flop. If you look at the numbers, it made all of its money back and then some. And we had such bad press because of things that were happening in someone's personal life, and the media was just like shitting on them, which really sucked. The movie at the time was the most expensive movie ever made before Titanic. Then Titanic came and blew us out of the water. Yeah, people are now, I get DMs on Instagram sometimes where it's like, I know everybody says that your movie sucks, but I really love it. And I'm like, wow, have you ever talked to a person before?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Right. Yeah, the movie was intense. I mean, I can't even, Kevin Costner takes really good care of his crew, and he knew how physically demanding it was. So like, a lot of the budget was just like our catering. I mean, we had it's
as it should be. That's it. You know what? Let them spend the money on the lobster, rolls and shrimp cocktail. Let them spend it.
And steak and pasta. And like everybody had to be so well fed because those guys were working so hard. And we were in the middle of the ocean, and it was terrifying, and there were accidents, and it was like such a huge undertaking. It was so much fun. It was so fun. I love that movie. I guess as you get older, you just sort of try to detach from whatever people's perceptions are of like an experience you had that they're never going to know what that was. That was like, it's like, okay, you can think whatever you want. And like, I'm no longer interested in arguing until you understand that perception is inaccurate. It's like, okay.
Right.
Whatever.
Honestly, it was like the best movie experience that I've had in 15 months. I highly recommend you go watch Waterworld. It is a wild ride. I loved every second. And I now love Dennis Hopper posthumously for being a good human and actor.
Yeah, I mean, that is high praise coming from you. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us this gift of Waterworld.
And you know what? It's the only time that I've ever been tan, because it was fake.
Phenomenal.
Makeup head to toe, baby.
Tina Majorino, we have entered the part of the show. This is called our rapid fire. We can try to keep it rapid fire. We're going to just throw a lot. This is where we get everything in we haven't mentioned already.
Okay, but you want them quick and like, what do you want the vibe to be? You want me to actually do it quick, or you want me to be like this long-winded bitch that I've been the entire time?
No, we love what you're doing.
We love
Be who you want to be. Be who you want to be.
If you have a rapid answer, great. But if you're like, actually, you guys want to hear this story, you know what we want to hear. So, you headlined the 1999 reimagined Alice in Wonderland for NBC with a slew of legends, including some of our favorites: Martin Short, Whoopi Goldberg, Ben Kingsley, Peter Ustinov, Christopher Lloyd, Gene Wilder, George Wendt, Robbie Coltrane, and Miranda Richardson. Were you intimidated being with such legends, and what was the scariest part? Acting opposite the big stars, singing, or doing a British accent, or something else?
Oh my God. I think I wasn't that intimidated. Okay, I was intimidated by Martin Short and Gene Wilder because I had grown up watching their movies. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, okay, because I was 12. I didn't have a personal attachment to a lot of the other actors. And like,
who knew who Ben Kingsley was when you're like 13? It's not the same thing as like...
He scared the shit out of me. Can I just say?
Please do.
Like, such an energy, that guy. Just very, like, you know.
He sucks up the air.
He really does. He's like a powerful energy. But like, okay, Christopher, I was a little bit nervous. I wasn't like super intimidated by working with them. I think for me, I loved Alice in Wonderland so much. Like the fact that when I got the call that they said like, is this Alice? And I was like, you know, like I got it. I didn't want to fuck it up. Yeah. So that was the intimidating part. It was like really taking it day by day. But the level of magic that was making that movie, I mean, a lot of that fear and worry just went out the window because like I was ready to do the work and show up, but like Jim Henson's puppets.
I like realistic looking effects. I'm into it. Like everything is a cartoon now. That was cool. Like the puppets, right? Cool.
The Griffin was the most gorgeous thing in real life. I actually have one of the hedgehogs in my office from Jim Henson's. It was just whatever. This is a fucking long answer. Okay.
No, very good.
This being her and wanting to make her different than the cartoon and like more representative of like the creepier, darker side of the original text. That was the most intimidating.
All right, we're hearkening back to Waterworld. Sorry, Fuck, Marry, Kill Waterworld Hair Edition. At the beginning of the movie, your hair is in braids. Later, Kevin Costner machetes off your braids in what I'm calling your iconic choppy short do. Mm-hmm. And in your last scene, you're wearing a makeshift snakeskin bonnet. Fuck, Marry, Kill those three things.
Kill the snakeskin bonnet, dude. It's over.
So sick. It was so sick.
It's over. The designer of those costumes, just by the way, that is not a reflection on your incredible work, John Bluefield. Those costumes were insane and all handmade. Yeah. But fuck that hat. So hard. Marry the braids.
Reliable, sturdy. I get it.
I'll fuck the short hair.
Yeah.
Because I fuck with short hair. Like, what am I doing right now? Because I've had short hair for like...
Yeah, it looks very good. Your short hair looks very good too.
Years, and now, yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, you were the lead in the music video for Pink's song Fucking Perfect, where your character shoplifts, carves the word perfect into her arm with a razor blade, cuts all her hair off, and then paints a self-portrait and becomes a famous and successful artist. Honestly, you get a 3-act play in this music video. Anne was crying watching it. Fill in the blank. You had more to do in this Pink music video than you did in blank.
Anything.
It's a one-woman show. You are. It's very good.
For real. That is one of my favorite things that I've ever done.
I watched it. I was like, oh, Damien, I'm really moved by this. It's really affecting me. I didn't think it would. It was very good.
Getting the email, Pink wants to know if you'll come. And it was just like, I don't care. It could be Pink wants me to come grocery shop for her. I'm there. Yeah.
Okay, Tina, on Scorpion, you played a chemist working with the genius members of the Scorpion group led by genius Kat McVie. On The Deep End, you played Addie Fisher, arguably the smartest of the first-year associates. Mac was, of course, a computer whiz on Veronica Mars, and on the TNT crime series Legend, you played an expert data analyst. Do you look forward to playing a dumb person someday?
Fuck yes. Greatest question I've ever been asked. 100%. Yes. I'm not kidding. I was just talking about this the other day where I was like, I want to play. This is so disrespectful. I don't even care, but like, I want to play a Valley Girl. I really want to. Because
It's not disrespectful. Yeah, we want it for you too.
I do it in real life jokingly all the time where I'm like, oh my God, you guys. Like, I just really want to. I want to go into that world. I want to be that.
We're putting that out.
Bitch.
Yeah, we're putting that in the universe.
Manifest that for me. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Tina, on this show, former child star Mindy Cohn told us that David Boreanaz didn't do coverage on Bones. You appeared in a handful of episodes. What say you to that?
The silence is deafening.
Oh my God, I can't hear you. This is so weird.
Got it. Okay, moving on.
Okay.
As a person whose parents almost named him Santino Bellino, this is true. This is what they went to the hospital. I related to some websites that claimed your full name is Albertina Majorino. Is this true?
Yes. Yes.
My parents were going to name me Santino after The Godfather because that's original and call me Sonny. And then I came out and I was like so like ruddy and blonde. They were like, oh. But I was like, is this true? Is this true? So I just needed to ask. Thank you for confirming.
Yes, confirmed. Santino. Wow.
Could have been. What it could have been.
I call you Sonny. I love it so much.
Hey.
I mean, I'm allowed to say that because my name is Albertina. Like,
it's so cool.
I love it.
It's really
I love it.
We didn't make it my professional name for obvious reasons, but I love when people say like, Tina Majorino, is that your stage name? And I was like, yeah, I thought of the fucking most difficult name. People never get my name right, ever. That's my stage name.
Okay. Tina, last question. I'm a lesbian. Damien and I consider ourselves lesbian pop culture historians. We try to find all of the gay characters that any guest of ours has ever played. So with your career, there seems to be more characters that have what we'll call lesbian undertones. So the question is, of these following characters, which, if any, did you play as gay, whether or not they were explicitly written?
Okay.
Heather in Big Love, Mac and Veronica Mars, or Jenny in Into the Dark Delivered?
Jenny was asexual.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I played Mac as bisexual because I was like, she just doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
And she didn't have the best luck with boys either. They were kind of awful.
Yeah. These were all things that we got, we picked up on a little je ne sais quoi gayness.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, in Big Love, you end up marrying Ben. Like, that's how the series finale sort of ends.
That doesn't mean anything, though, right?
Yeah, but also, like, Rhonda, I think, right? Deve Chase is like, congrats, Lesbo, you got him. And I was like, interesting, because, I don't know. I just was interested in that energy that maybe they were including those clues that was something there.
In my mind, I always thought, like, Heather was gay. Because here was the thing that I struggled with, is that I loved the idea that she was just, like, wanted to be close to Amanda Seyfried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also maybe she didn't know, or, like...
Oh, and it's also, like...
wrapped up, yeah.
Yeah. I hate getting into the church stuff. But, like, the other thing that I kind of struggled with that character was... I hated, specifically at that time, that, like, there was no representation of women supporting each other and, like, women being nice to each other. It was just, like, cat fighting and being insane and, like, tearing each other down and all of that kind of stuff. Which now, as an adult person, I'm like, well, kind of accurate. Like, female friendships are really hard. I don't know. I just always felt like Heather secretly really loved Amanda's character.
Thank you for saying it for us.
Yeah,
we felt it. We felt it.
Yeah, there were certain moments where I felt like you could tell, where she's like looking at her and just like, I want to raise this baby with you. So yeah.
The lesbian vibes are strong. Okay. Tina Majorino, thank you so much for being on You Might Know Her From. This has been really just like the best afternoon I could possibly imagine.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I never want it to end. And you guys have the best questions. I've never been asked like half the things that you guys asked me today. So thank you so much.
Okay, lesbian energy is always the way to end an interview. Listen, I'm going to say that I always thought that Heather was gay for Sarah on Big Love, but I didn't want to come in with that as like the setup for that question because I didn't want to lead. And I also thought like maybe that I watched that show many, many years ago. So I thought maybe it was like an unfair assessment, like that was probably me being like misogynistic and homophobic, maybe in my own ways, being like,
or like projecting your own stuff onto it, being like I want to see this,
or being like, this close female friendship, like they're lesbos in like probably a hateful way, that I didn't mean to be hateful. So
yeah.
I was so pleased though to hear that Tina maybe had like an actor's secret that was like, maybe Heather really is in love with Sarah.
Ooh, like when I tell you that I didn't know we were going to get the Waterworld dirt that we did, and when she led with Dennis Hopper, and I was like worried that it was going to be terrible news, and then it was good news. I was like, oh, I can't tell you how much that movie tickled me. It really moved me this year. I think it was maybe like my best film experience of 2021 quarantine. I really just like had a whole time with it.
I think the thing that we are always in pursuit of here at You Might Know Her From is we want to talk about the craft and we want to talk about these women and non-cis men and like their place in Hollywood or Broadway or just in the arts. And we want to talk about their craft, but we also want a little bit of juice. We want a little bit of Hollywood gossip, a little bit of backstage dirt. And I felt like what Tina gave us was just that. Like she knew what we wanted. And so the Dennis Hopper, juice, the Whoopi, like how incredible Whoopi Goldberg was as a human and as a actor to act opposite. I mean, I was just like, Tina.
And let me just say, the silence surrounding, once again, David Boreanaz. It's a recurring theme of this podcast. We'll ask every single person that worked with Mr. Boreanaz what their experience was. And as I said in the interview, the silence was deafening. Folks, if you follow the show, you know that we like to do this thing. Damien and I live for blind items. We both grew up on Ted Casablanca and Crazy Days and Nights. So we like to tease next week's episode. So what we have started doing is connecting this current week's guest to next week's guest through credits. And we have removed men from the connection scenario. So there will be no men used in any of these connections. So Damien, are you ready for me to tease next week's guest?
Oh, I'm so excited.
All right, this is in classic form. It's incredibly convoluted. Here we go. Tina Majorino was in Corrina with Whoopi Goldberg, who was, of course, in The Color Purple with Oprah Winfrey, who was in The Butler with one of our faves, Melissa Leo, who was in The L Word with Jennifer Beals, who was in Roger Dodger with Elizabeth Berkley, who was in Showgirls with Gina Gershon, who was in Bound, which was directed by Lily Wachowski, who produced the show that stars next week's guest.
Whew. Okay, I was on a journey. I was not expecting it to get us there.
Yeah,
Jennifer Beals and Roger Dodger. Yes, sign me up. Maybe stole that Netflix DVD. I lost it in the mail.
That's how I have Clute. I also lost Clute in the mail. It's sitting in my TV credenza.
Never watched it. Wow. Okay, yes. I'm very excited for next week's episode. And I just want to say that, folks, if you are DMing us ideas for guests, like this season's lineup is stacked. We are taking your suggestions. We have guests in our lineup that came directly from DMs with you folks on Instagram and Twitter, and we are doing our best. We have people who are the stars of our favorite shows currently. We have people that are favorites from when we were kids. We have a great lineup for you this season. So with all of that said, please leave us a review. It is the best thing you can do to keep this podcast going. It helps. I don't really know how, but I know that it helps the algorithm. It helps us rise in the charts. We were just charting in like Latvia. We were in like the top, 40 comedy podcasts in Latvia or something.
Too bad we did fall in Belize on the comedy charts, but we're up in Latvia. So, it's a net positive.
So please leave us that review. You can just go to iTunes. You can leave us an emoji, a one word like I like it. You can leave the name of an actor there that you'd like us to interview, and we will see it, and you will be helping us keeping this good thing going. And while you're there, you can also follow us on the social. That's where you can also send some suggestions or tell us what you think of the episode. You can give us a little constructive criticism or some praise. You can find me at Damian Bellino, and you can find my tall cohort over here at Rodaman. And how do you spell that, Ian?
It is Rodemanne. Thank you for checking. You might know her from is produced by us. That's Damian Bellino and Ann Rodaman, us best friends sitting in front of your ear holes right now. And we want to thank our Pitch Perfect consultants at Grumpy Entertainment. That's Jason Jude Hill and Daniel Sears. And all of the beloved, beautiful, stunning, crisp, crunchy iceberg lettuce editing that you hear is courtesy of that same beautiful Daniel Sears.
Special thanks to Gang. As always, all that music that you hear underscoring each and every episode of You Might Know Her From is by Gang. You can download and stream their music wherever you listen to your music.
Also, if you're looking for a picture of Tina Majorino in that snakeskin bonnet, check the show notes. We fill them in with pictures and links and videos and all the things that we discuss on the pod. We spend time on those. Please check out the show notes.
I was having this funny observation about the podcast recently. I was like drunk and I was like walking somewhere and I wrote it in my phone. But it's like this thing that I noticed that you do all the time.
Oh no.
Where you'll be like, they're not even in the same room. And you have like this mission to tell me that when people are like not in the same room, and like you've said it to people in the interview, you've said it to like Jane Howdy show. You were like, you and Jennifer Aniston, she wasn't even in the room. And she was like, what? Yes, she was. And you were like, are you sure? There's no wide shot. And she was like, yeah, she was in the room. And you were like, are you sure?
But here's the thing. You got to check, because guess who isn't in the room? Fucking Boreanaz.
Touche.